And then once you get stronger, ideally you should be able to get lower and lower until eventually you're able to go all the way down to the ground and then pull yourself all the way back up. And that was the strengthening exercise for the biceps femoris muscle, specifically the proximal fibers. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to be your own therapist by demonstrating the top 5 strengthening exercises for posture correction, and more specifically, I'm going to be teaching you how to correct postural bow legs. Before I get on with the exercises, I first want to explain what exactly postural bow legs are and why exactly you should care. Postural bow legs is a combination of medial rotation of the femur or your thigh bone being rotated in toward the midline, pronation or eversion of the foot or a collapsed arch, and hyperextension of the knee. And when you have medial rotation of the femur, what's going to happen is the axis of motion in the knee is going to be oblique to the coronal plane, meaning the hyperextension is going to be in the postural lateral compartment. And if you don't address it, it can lead to things like low back pain, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, and foot pain, so you would want to address it immediately. And one of the ways in which we could address it would be to do some strengthening exercises for the muscles that are responsible for lateral rotation of the femur, supination or inversion of the foot, and also strengthening the muscles on the posterolateral compartment of the knee. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing for you guys today. So without further ado, here are the top 5 strengthening exercises for posture correction to correct postural bow legs. The first strengthening exercise for posture correction to correct postural bow legs is going to be for the deep fibers of the Gluteus Maximus muscle, and more specifically, we're going to be targeting the medial-medial fibers, meaning the fibers closest to the midline. For it, we're going to get into a supine position, meaning you're going to be laying down on your back. You want to bring your feet together and you're going to separate your knees as far apart as you can without allowing the navicular to leave the ground. So you want to press the medial arch down into the floor. From here, we're going to get into retroversion of pelvis, flat lumbar spine, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown head away, eyes looking down between our thighs to put the dura mater under tension with the arms, put them at the level of the glenohumeral angle. If you don't know where that is, depending on everybody's morphology, it's going to be anywhere from 90 to 135 degrees. For the average person, when your arms are fully extended and the palms at the level of your forehead are slightly higher, that's going to be at the level of your glenohumeral angle. And then, for the principle of action, we want to go into hip extension. We're going to drive our hips up toward the sky without losing the retroversion of the pelvis, and we want to roll and unroll the spine. So we're going to go one vertebra at a time. We want to lift the L5 up off the ground first, then L4, L3, L2, L1, and then go all the way back down. So L1 is going to touch first, then L2, L3, L4, L5, and we want to go all the way down without allowing the glutes to touch. The reason we're not going to let the glutes touch is because we want to keep tension on the glutes, but this is the strengthening exercise for the Gluteus Maximus muscle, specifically the deep fibers and the medial fibers. Next, the second strengthening exercise for posture correction to correct postural bow legs is going to be for the Piriformis muscle, and specifically, we're going to be targeting the superficial fibers. For it, we're going to get into a sideline position. You're going to take your bottom arm, you're going to use it as a pillow to rest your head, and for this one, we're going to need a yoga block. With the bottom leg, you want to flex the hip and knee to 90 degrees, and then with the top leg, that's going to be the working leg. We're going to go ahead and flex the knee to 90 degrees, and the principle of action is we're going to go into lateral rotation of femur, so you're going to drive your knee up toward the sky, and you can use your hand for external resistance. To target the different fibers, for this one right over here, what we're going to do, if we want to target the superficial fibers, we're going to go ahead and get into 30 degrees of hip flexion. We're going to place our ankle on top of the yoga block, and then principle of action, again, we're going into lateral rotation of femur. Then, if we want to target the middle fibers, we're going to go up 20 more degrees of flexion, so we're going to go into 50 degrees of hip flexion. Principle of action is the same. We're going into lateral rotation of femur by driving the knee up toward the sky, and then if we want to target the inferior fibers, we're going to go up another 20 degrees to 70 degrees. So we're going to flex the hip a little bit more, and the principle of action is identical. So we're driving the knee up toward the sky to get into lateral rotation of femur. And those were the strengthening exercises for the superficial fibers of the piriformis muscle. Then, the third strengthening exercise for posture correction to correct postural bow legs is going to be for the biceps femoris muscle. For the biceps femoris, we're going to be targeting the proximal fibers, meaning the fibers closer to the pelvis. And for it, we're going to get into a kneeling position. We're going to get something to rest your knees on because you want to make it nice and comfortable. I'm going to be using a plyo box and also a mat. Then, once we are in this position, you want to go ahead and either have a partner push down onto your ankles, or if you have a weight, you can take a weight and you can bring that onto your ankles to fasten you down toward the floor. So I'm just going to go ahead, take my weight, place it on my ankles. From here, because we are targeting the biceps femoris, what we want to do is go into slight adduction of femur by bringing the knees in between our thighs. So we want them just inside of hip width. And then we want to go into medial rotation of femur by bringing the ankles outside of our knees just a little bit. We want to maintain retroversion of pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown head up, eyes looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension. With the arms, you're going to place them down by your side. And then the principle of action, we're going to go into knee extension by driving our body down toward the floor as far as we can without losing the retroversion of the pelvis. If you've lost the retroversion of the pelvis, then you've gone too far. So you don't want to lose the retroversion. And then once you get stronger, ideally you should be able to get lower and lower until eventually you're able to go all the way down to the ground and then pull yourself all the way back up. And that was the strengthening exercise for the biceps femoris muscle, specifically the proximal fibers. The fourth strengthening exercise for posture correction to correct postural bow legs is going to be for the soleus muscle. And for it, we're going to be in a standing position. We want to get into a split stance, so you're going to have one leg forward, one leg back. The leg that's forward, that's going to be the leg that we're strengthening, and we want to go into medial rotation of femur, medial rotation of tibia, and slight flexion of the knee. If we want to target the medial fibers, what we're going to do is we are just going to go into plantar flexion by raising the heel up off the ground, and then if we want to add a little bit of resistance, we can place our hand on our thigh. To add a little bit more, we can lean forward a little bit more. And then depending on whether we want to target the superficial or deep fibers, we can play with the level of inversion or eversion of the ankle. If we want to target the superficial fibers, we're going to go into inversion by lifting up the medial arch, and then we're going to go into plantar flexion of the ankle. And then if we want to target the deep fibers, we're going to go into eversion by collapsing the medial arch, and once again going into plantar flexion. And this is the strengthening exercise for the medial fibers of the soleus muscle. And then if we want to target the lateral fibers, we're going to have three different positions. I'm going to go from the side. But if we want to target the proximal fibers, we essentially have the same setup. So we have one leg forward, one leg back. We got medial rotation of femur, medial rotation of tibia. And then for the proximal fibers, we have the leg forward and we are going into plantar flexion of the ankle. If we want to target the intermediate fibers, we're going to line up the heels. So then the leg on the side that you guys can see right over here, I'm going to go into plantar flexion, and that is to target the intermediate fibers. And then if I want to target the distal fibers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my leg backward, and the back leg, that is going to be the leg that I'm strengthening. So with the back leg, once again, I am going into plantar flexion by raising the heel up off the ground. And this is the strengthening exercise for the soleus muscle. And last, the fifth and final strengthening exercise for posture correction to correct postural bow legs is going to be for the anterior tibialis muscle. For the anterior tibialis, we're going to be in a seated position. You want to go ahead and flex your knees to 90 degrees. And the principle of action, we're going to go into dorsiflexion of ankle, so you're going to drive your toes up toward the sky. If you are doing this as a therapist with a patient, you can press down on the feet and use your hands as external resistance. If you are a patient doing this yourself, you can press down with your own hands. You can tie a resistance bands to your feet, or you can put some ankle weights on your toes and use that for external resistance. But this is the strengthening exercise for the anterior tibialis muscle. And there you have it. Those were the top 5 strengthening exercises for posture correction to correct postural bow legs. If you have postural bow legs, or if you have issues with regard to low back pain, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, or foot pain, go ahead and give those exercises a try. And if you have given them a try, go ahead and drop your comments down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys thought. In terms of the programming for the strengthening exercises, what you want to do is 3 sets of 50 repetitions for every single one of the strengthening exercises, and that's 5-0, not 1-5. The reason we're going so high with the repetitions is because we're trying to elicit a postural change, and whenever we're trying to elicit a postural change, one of the most important things is going to be accumulating enough time under tension. And if we do the typical 8 to 12 bodybuilding repetition rep range, we're not going to be able to accumulate that time under tension. So 3 sets of 50 repetitions for every single one of the strengthening exercises. And then in a couple days on Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m., I'm going to be taking you through the top 5 myofascial stretching exercises for posture correction to correct postural bow legs. And those are going to be a terrific complement to the strengthening exercises that we did today. So be out on the lookout for that this Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to keep making these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, as I'll be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.